Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar, getting started with Tempo Timesheets. I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Dua. I'm the Training and Learning Program Manager here at Tempo, and I'm really focused on maximizing the value that you get from learning sessions just like this one, but also all of the learning that we provide. So really looking forward to your feedback and your suggestions. On the call today as well, answering your questions in the question box is going to be Susan, who's one of our senior product experts. So again, utilize that question box. And also presenting is an amazing team of experts. I'll let them go ahead and introduce themselves. I'll start with you, Edna.
Okay, thanks, Dua. Hi, I'm Edna. I'm an instructional content specialist here at Tempo, and my job is to create learning and training materials to keep you, our customers, well informed about how Tempo works, especially for workflows. So I'll hand it over to Connor.
Thanks, Edna. So hi, everyone. My name is Connor. I'm the learning and onboarding specialist here at Tempo. Similar to Edna, I work on training and learning materials as well. And I'll hand it over to Catherine really quick to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining today. I'm Catherine Vargas. I'm the product manager for Timesheets, and my job is to hopefully ship the features that you need and that you will love to use.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone. Okay, let's move on to our agenda or our topics for today. So for our topics today, we will begin with highlighting what Timesheets by Tempo is and the solutions that it provides. We also know that the best part of sessions like this one is you get to see our products in action. So most of today will be spent in demos. We will begin with how to successfully set up timesheets, followed by an overview of our most popular customer workflows, such as tracking time for productivity, billing purposes, or tracking certain accounts like CapEx and OpEx. Then Catherine will walk us through our 2023 timesheet roadmap, and followed by answering some of your questions live. All right, and let's jump right into it. So what is Timesheets by Tempo? Well, it's the #1 time tracking app for Jira in the Atlassian Marketplace. And if that's not impressive enough, it makes it easy to collect and report on time tracking data. It provides streamlined cost reporting for better financial management, and integrates really well with numerous applications on the Atlassian Marketplace, which allows it to fit right into your existing set of tools. And to keep up with the times, it's the first time tracking app for Jira to leverage AI. We'll be highlighting those AI features as we go through our demos today. Tempo is dedicated to delivering industry-leading strategic portfolio management solutions that go beyond single products. By creating seamless integrations and combining the power of our impressive suite of products, including Timesheets, Planner, Cost Tracker, and Structure by Tempo, we empower you to navigate the complexities of strategic portfolio management. And to highlight these efforts, we have a series of sessions coming your way this fall to showcase all these integrations and solutions. So definitely another exciting aspect to look forward to. All right, so for whatever reason that you are tracking time, Timesheets can provide a solution. It enables you to easily collect and report on time tracking data in a way that ensures your resources are streamlined to achieve your business goals. It also allows you to categorize types of log time to eliminate inaccurate tracking of financial data. So you don't have any missed revenue, you're not underbilling anyone. And as the most extensible solution in the market, Timesheet features future-proofs your options to grow as part of a larger line of SPM products and enterprise solutions. So you don't have to stop at Timesheets, you can definitely use the rest of our products as well. All right, and on that note, let's go ahead and set it up. Connor, I'll move it on to you.
All right, so the way you set up timesheets will have a huge impact on how your organization can start using timesheets and gaining values from it right away. In the following demo, I'm going to show 4 main things you'll want to cross off before opening up timesheets to the rest of your organization. These are giving access to Timesheets by Tempo, granting Tempo permissions, creating internal issues, and setting up workload and holiday schemes. And just another quick reminder, what we're showing you today is all on Tempo Cloud. So the Timesheets by Tempo Cloud product. So I'm going to go over here into a Tempo admin profile, and we'll start talking about setting up timesheets. So here I am in Tempo. I'm going to go straight into settings here on the left, and we'll get going. So you'll need to have Jira or Tempo administrator permission to see all of these settings. So you'll see tips for setting up permissions, as well as tips for some timesheets use cases here. But we're going to go straight into setting up some permissions. So the first thing you need to do is make sure that everyone has access to timesheets, which is done with a global permission. So I'm going to go into the permission overview right here, like global, and then we want to manage them. So I'm going to click here to manage. And here I'm just going to show you this Tempo timesheets access. So you need to make sure that the Tempo timesheets access permission is granted to the Jira user group that has everyone you need in it. This is actually the case by default, but if you have problems with employees needing access, this is the permission to check. I'm going to go back to settings here. So permissions are the key for your employees to have a great experience with Tempo. When everyone has access to what they need, it's a much more efficient way to get work done. When you install timesheets, several of Tempo's own permissions are added to the Jira Global Permissions page. These permissions are about specifying the key people for administering Tempo for your company. So now let's have a look at the project permissions. Once again, I'm going to click here. So these are managed by permission schemes. I'm going to click on the default permission scheme here. I'm going to scroll down to time tracking permissions all the way down here. So also when you install timesheets, there are several basic Jira project permissions that you need to grant to all Tempo users. As well, Tempo adds some of its own permissions to the time tracking permissions that you need to grant to Tempo users. So just make sure that you have a look at all this when setting up timesheets by Tempo. All right, next thing we're going to look at is internal issues. So let's move on to that. So I'm going to click on internal issues underneath the configuration section here. So this is how employees can log time to events that are not about project-related work. So this is done with something called internal issues. These are simply Jira issues that you create for your organization so that employees can log time to things like vacation, sick days, travel time, meetings, special events. You can create whatever types of issues your company needs. A best practice is to create a separate Jira project for the internal issues to make it easier to manage them. So as you can see, these issues, they all start with the same issue key. Another quick thing I want to show you is workload and holiday schemes, or our workload and holiday schemes. So I'm going to go down here to the working day section. I'm going to click on workload. So both workload and holiday schemes are really important to set up before you get too far. With these set up, you'll know exactly how many hours each employee is required to work per day and per reporting period. So the default Tempo workload scheme sets up 8 working hours each day, Monday to Friday. All employees are added to the scheme by default. Of course, you can edit this default scheme to 7 hours a day if you want to, or create a new one and set it as the default. You can also create additional workload schemes. So for example, for part-time employees who work only 4 hours a day. Note that employees can only be assigned to one workload scheme at a time. Let's hop over to holiday schemes. So these schemes define the public holidays for each country. So if you have offices in different locations for your organization, many organizations do now, you'll need to create a holiday scheme for each one. One thing to note is that holiday schemes are not meant for vacation days or personal time off. That should be done with internal issues that I just showed you. So in summary, holidays are subtracted from the required working days from the workload scheme. So the resulting number of days is the working capacity for each employee. So that was a quick look at 4 quick things to remember when setting up timesheets by Tempo at your organization. Hopefully that's helpful for those of you in this session who have not yet set up timesheets by Tempo or are in the process of doing it. So right now we're actually going to get into the first workflow called Where'd All the Time Go? So tracking for productivity and efficiency. So as it says, you would assume that this is for gaining insight into productivity and efficiency at your company. So this workflow will touch on a few essential elements of Timesheets by Tempo, such as Tempo teams, timesheets approvals, automated time tracking, and then generating insights via logged time reports. I'm going to hop over to my team lead profile in Timesheets by Tempo. So to show this workflow, we're really going to talk a lot about Tempo teams. The team we'll be talking about today is a team that works on a mobile app called Greenergy. For simplicity's sake, Greenergy is also the name of the team. So to get to Tempo teams, I'm going to go down to the teams icon down here, click on that. So this will show a list of all the teams that have been created on your Tempo instance. You can create Tempo teams for whatever you need. For example, there are teams here for department and also project-based teams. But we're going to go into the Greenergy team. So you can see all the members in this team down here. Let's also have a look at permission roles up here in the top right. So by default, there's a team lead permission role that gives the team lead all the permissions they need to manage their team's timesheets. You can see Eric is the team lead for this team. Team members don't have any permissions by default, usually for privacy reasons. Like you probably don't want team members to see each other's work logs. For each team, you can also add your own custom permission roles to give other people whatever permissions you want them to have for only that team, like having a permission role for a backup team lead who can approve timesheets. These ghosted roles also affect this team, but they're set at a global level in the settings. So why use Tempo teams? Having employees in smaller groups makes it easier to manage their time and work logs. So let's see how team members actually log time. So I'm going to go back to my work. Now, when you click Tempo in the Jira app up here, or in the apps tab, I should say, and click Tempo, it does bring you right to my work. But if you're in any other tab in Tempo, you can just go back to the top left, click my work. So we're going to log some time. Now, logging time requires two things: an issue, so a task you're working on, and time to log that task against. So a duration time with a beginning and an end. So we'll log time to an issue here. So we'll do it during the time that we're doing this webinar right now. So I'm going to do that. And I want to log time to this issue, so run program tests on bicycles. And let's just log that for an hour. So that was a simple way to log time. I did it pretty quickly there just by searching for the issue. There are many other ways that you can log time. So if you go over to the right here, this is called the issue picker, and you can configure this many ways. You know, if I wanted to log time to the issue I just did, I could look it up here, start typing that in. There it is. I could, we'll go into the future a little bit, log that time. If we get rid of that, you can see that you can configure this to see issues that you've recently logged, issues you've been assigned to, certain issues for different projects, favorited issues, internal issues, issues you're watching. So there's many different ways that you can locate the issues that you would like to log time to. You'll also see when going to log time that there are some tasks that show up on the top with a lightning bolt left to it. So let's do this again. So these are suggestions powered by predictive algorithms, so powered by machine learning. This is a big deal. These suggestions help users log their time up to 50% faster. The more users use Timesheets by Tempo, the better the suggestions get. So Timesheets by Tempo is the first time tracking app in the Atlassian marketplace to leverage AI this way. So this is pretty exciting. But let's just cancel that for now. So you'll notice some other stuff here on this timesheet. Some of these are automated suggestions that go right on your timesheet, like from apps that Timesheets integrates with, such as Google Calendar and, of course, Jira. Now, you can toggle off these suggestions whenever you want, such as the calendar or such as Jira. So if I go up to this filter button right here, click on Jira, all of a sudden you see that those Jira suggestions disappeared, and Google Calendar, those can disappear as well. And to log time to suggestions, it's very simple. So if this is what I was working on at that time, I can just simply click log time, app launch, and bam, that is logged. Same thing for Google Calendar. So once again, it's the future, but we can just log that time just like that. And then you'll notice with some Google Calendar work logs here that there's an exclamation mark. So these one-on-ones that Eric has on Thursday, there's an exclamation mark. And that's because there's a missing issue key. So sometimes people don't include issue keys in the Google Calendar event themselves. So if that happens, you can just go in, and once again, you can easily search for an issue. This would be a team meeting. We have an issue for that, and you would be able to log your time. But once again, that's the future, so I won't log that right now. So hopefully you can see here the timesheet. The team members can really use timesheets how they want to, and it actually, not only makes lives easier for managers and executives, but also for team members themselves. It can help them in the sense that there's not as much guesstimating, so team members can see clearly how they're spending their time. It may help them it may lead to better organization and planning capacity as well. So if too much work is allocated to team members, they're actually able to show management, or management will be able to see that maybe a bit more resources are needed. In terms of optimization, same deal, managers are able to see like patterns in the team's work habits, and they can optimize these processes. And lastly, motivation. So that team members get via logging time in Timesheets by Tempo, they can actually see how much that they have accomplished. So that can be So the next thing I'm going to show you is submitting time for approval. But just before I do that, I'm actually going to go back to the Tempo admin profile here. I'm still in settings, and I'm just going to show you this really quick. So this is period configuration. So there's a monthly reporting period to set up. Monthly is recommended because there is some overhead with setting up, but of course you can do weekly as well. But I think monthly is the way it's most often used. So once that's set up, team members are able to log their time properly. So let's go back to Eric. And we can use, and we can submit our time, and managers or team leads can then approve those timesheets. So this can really encourage accountability and accuracy, since timesheets need to be reviewed and approved within specific reporting periods. So if I go up to submit period up here on the right, you will see that there are a few actually time periods that need to be submitted here. So if I was to click submit, then the team lead would be able to see that this team member's timesheet, and then be able to approve or reject it. And I'll show you what that looks like right now. So I'm going to go into Teams. Once again, we're in the Greenergy team. I'm going to click approvals up here. Now this is the current month, so there's not that much data. So we'll go back a month. And this is what it looks like. So for example, up here, 2 members, their timesheets are waiting for approval. There are timesheets ready to submit down here, previously approved timesheet. So to make this quicker, I could just check these, since these 2 are waiting for approval, click approve, and I could approve these timesheets. And then you will see them down here in the section that says timesheets are approved. So where can we see all the data packaged together? That's in reports. So let's hop over to reports, and this is the last thing I'll show you in this workflow. So we have a report here, March 2023, a logged time report that I'm going to hop into. So logged time reports get data on time spent by teams, total time spent on a project, whatever they need to find out where the time goes. So there's a few things we can do here to have a few different, to bring some different data up. So right now we're filtered by Team Greenergy. If I wanted to, maybe also I could filter by the Greenergy project. Okay, so that doesn't really show us that much there. So maybe I'll get rid of that again. And then we can also group by different things. So here so far we're grouped by project, user, epic, and issue. Lots of issues and stuff being shown right now. So maybe I'll get rid of these just so we can see project and user. That looks a little bit better. Another quick thing to show are utilization and required time. Let's put those both in so they will show up here. Required hours, that's the number of hours users need to work in the time period. And then utilization is how much time was actually logged in that time period. So once you save a report, so you can then see that there. So once this is done, you can save this report and you can also share it with others. So you can click share here and you can share it with others. Though note that those people do need the same permissions to be able to see it. Another way you can share a report is by exporting it. So this is a way to share data with people that don't have permissions to see the timesheets data themselves. So you can do it via PDF, Excel type sheet, CSV, etc. So that's the bare bones of the productivity and efficiency workflow in Timesheets by Tempo. I'll go back to the slide deck now and pass it on.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to show you two common workflows for timesheets, and that's tracking for CapEx and also for tracking for billable hours. So these are the basic financial reasons to use timesheets. Tracking time on capital expenditures or CapEx helps companies claim government tax credits for research and development work that they do. So if you're eligible for that, you definitely want to take advantage of it. So the government's rules require that time tracking software is used to accurately record the number of hours worked. So this is where timesheets comes in. Billing, on the other hand, is a common task if you're in professional services, but other types of organizations may have certain departments or even individuals who also do billable work. So regardless of your setup, timesheets can help you track, organize, and report on that time for billable work. And from this data, you can create an invoice for your client. So I'll first give you an overview of the two billing workflows that are possible in timesheets. One is a simple Jira project-based workflow using the billable hours field. And there's also a more complex but very powerful multi-project workflow that uses billable and non-billable accounts. So I'm going to go over to my Tempo instance here. And here I'm in my work, as Connor showed you before. So I'm going to start by showing you the simpler method of tracking billable hours. But first, here's a really important fact about timesheets and billing is by default, and I'm going to just open this up and select an issue. All the hours that you enter here in the duration that you log are actually billable hours as well under the hood. And you won't notice this, and it doesn't matter if you're not tracking billable hours. But if you are, you're going to see that the billable hours always match what you've logged, unless you change those billable hours, and you can do that. And this is where the billable hours field comes in. And I'm going to show you how you can do that. So in this example, I'm going to go over Teams page here and open up my Apollo Environment Management team. So this is a consulting group, and they're doing a sustainability assessment for their client, Lunar Industries. So in this case, their issues are all in the single Jira project called Lunar Sustain. So I'll open that up. And here you see all the many issues that they're working on. So the key to this workflow is actually the set billable hours permissions. So I'm going to project settings and permissions and scroll way down to the bottom here. And this is also in the time tracking permissions that Connor showed you. So this is the set billable hours permission. And this is actually what makes the billable hours field appear in the log time form that I just showed you. But it's only for those people who have this permission. So in this case, my consultants here are in this project role, so they have this permission. So I'm going to go back to the project. So when they log their time, and I notice that you can log time directly from Jira, which is also really handy. All you have to do is click this to open up the Tempo panel. So when they log their time, they enter their hours as usual, let's say 8 hours. But maybe they are only billing for 6 hours. And you might wonder, why are these not the same? Well, in some cases, maybe you've been doing some administrative work or, I don't know, taking a really long coffee break or whatever. You don't want to actually bill your clients for the full amount of time, but you want to log it to show that you've worked that time. Or maybe you're reaching the limit of the time that you can actually bill for your contract. So sometimes, you have to make sure that you're not going to go over your limit. So for whatever reason, you can change it there, and then you have your billable time there. So as the project's moving along and everyone's logging their billable hours, I'm going to go back to Tempo here. The project manager will run a log time report. And as you see, I've got a whole bunch of saved reports here because this is my test instance. So I will open the Lunar Sustain project. And as Connor showed you before, you can filter on different things. He had filtered by teams. In this case, I'm filtering by the project. And this is the project in which all the consultants are logging their time for this contract. So you can see the log time here. And what's really important now is to show the billable time. So you just select this option, and the billable time also shows up. And as you notice, these are not the same totals. So if you want, you could even just show billable time, and that would work too. But if you want to see both logged and billable, you keep these both on. So this report is the base for an invoice. So the project manager could, after they save the report, they can share it with their finance team, for example. And as Connor mentioned, they need to have the same permission so that they can see all this data in the report. And if not, they can export it, usually as an Excel spreadsheet, and then send it to their finance team. The finance team will put this data in their accounting software and then create the invoice to send to their client, in this case, Lunar Industries. And then your client will pay you, hopefully. That's kind of the goal of all of this. So that's the simple billing process. And as you see, it's pretty straightforward. But what if you have multiple JIRA projects and even multiple teams working on a contract, and maybe you even have multiple contracts with the same client? So if that's the case, then Tempo accounts are your answer. So accounts are like a high-level organizer for categorizing all the time that's logged, and you can categorize it in these 4 types that are preset in in Timesheets. Including billable time. I'm going to show you a different example this time. Back to my teams, and I'll go down to our scientific consulting team here at Lunar Industries. As you see, like an organization can also have certain teams that bill their hours. So they're completing the first of many contracts with a client called Greenergy, as we saw before. So one thing that's useful with accounts, I'll go back, is that you can create a customer profile to link to the accounts. And here we have Greenergy for our account here. And these are all the accounts that are actually linked to this customer. So you could have several of them. Sometimes they represent a single contract, but sometimes they just represent a group of a type of work for that client. So for accounts themselves, it's actually good to start back in settings with the account categories. So account categories are a way of classifying all your accounts by type. And you can group multiple accounts together with these categories, and you create these yourself. These are not preset for you. So in this case, we've created this billable type account called consulting for tracking all the billable work. And we also have an operational type account called pre-sales. So you'll see those as I go back to accounts. So the H3 Energy billable account is using the consulting category. And you see this little B here means that it's the billable type. And we also have the H3 Solutions account, which is pre-sales. And that's the operational type. So we'll be using these 2 accounts to track our billable and non-billable work for our client. So each Tempo account needs to be linked And I'm going to open up one of the accounts here, and you see all the information in it that was added when we created the account. You can also edit here everything except for the key, by the way. So each account needs to be linked to Jira projects, and that's so that people can actually log their time to these accounts. So I'm going to open up this Jira project and go to backlog to see all the issues. And I'll open up an issue here. And here you can see, because we linked the account to the Jira project, it can show up in the account field here. And this account field is added by our Jira administrator. So each each project can be linked to different accounts. So I can choose the one that works for this issue. In this case, it's my H3 Energy billable account. And now when we log our time, again, just all you have to do this time is simply log the hours and you're done. There's no need for the billable hours field when you're using accounts. So with all that set up, the contract is moving along and everyone's logging their time to the correct account. We'll go back to Tempo and I'll show you the reports that the project manager will run. So back to log time. And this time I'll go to the Green Energy accounts. And this is our client. So this time this report's filtered by the customer, who's Green Energy. So we see all the accounts for this month where people have logged time. So we have the billable account and we have our non-billable solutions account that's operational. And I have things grouped by the account, project, and issue, just so it's very clean to see which account people have logged time to. Unlike the billable hours, we don't need to actually use this billable column. And in fact, sometimes that can cause a lot of confusion with people. So simply all the time that's logged to the account is, that's your billable time. Sorry, actually, I need to go back here. And we even have a separate account just for the billable hours. So in this case, we have the Green Energy customer again, but this time it's only the billable account that's linked to our Green Energy customer. So here again, we see all of these hours are considered billable because they're logged to this account. And here I've got it sorted by project, user, and also work log, because in some cases, like say Green Energy wants to see that level of detail in the invoice. And again, at the end, you can share the report or export it to the finance team, who then creates the invoice from this data. So that's billing. And as you see, once you understand these two different ways of working for billing, you can decide which method works best for you. It's like sometimes a simple method is enough, but sometimes it can get fairly complex and you really want to have the accounts, which has a rich set of data, as you can see, for running reports later on. So let's go back to Tempo accounts. And let's take a quick look at CapEx. So the process is very similar to what I just showed you with billable accounts. But in this case, we're going to be looking at, the type, which is capitalized or operational, and I can filter to show just those. So in this example, Linear Industries also has a development team whose work is being tracked for their new mobile app for testing helium-3 levels for their mining operations on the moon. So this is very complex stuff. So the time spent developing the app is considered as CapEx or capitalized here. So it's eligible for tax credits. But there's other operational work that's being done that's called OpEx, and that's sometimes done by other teams. So we're going to look at both of those. So our Tempo accounts have already been created. The Helium-3 app account, and as you see, it's considered capitalized, and that's determined by the category that we created earlier called development. And also there's the operational account that matches it, as you see there. and it's in the maintenance category that we created. So using these categories makes accounting a lot easier, since it's very clear which type of work is being done for the same project. And if Lunar Industries is ever audited by the government, they have a really clear division record of this division, which can be very important, as you can imagine. So I'm going to open up our CapEx account here. And you see, like with the billable accounts, it's linked to all these different JIRA projects that are related to this work. So if I open up the H3 Mine app project, I'll just go backlog. And as before, each account is linked to this project. I can see in my account field here again that this account is where, when people log their time, it's going to be logged to this account. That's pretty straightforward as before. So let's go back to Tempo. And again, each month, our project manager runs a report. This time, they want to see all the CapEx accounts that are eligible for tax credits. So we're going to run this app development CapEx report. So this time it's filtered by the category type, which is capitalized. So I'm seeing all of my CapEx accounts on my instance for that people have logged to in November. So I can see here's my Helium-3 CapEx account. What you can also do when you have account set up is you can filter by account category. So I know that it was the development category I used, and I can even get rid of the category type then too. And probably most of them are the same accounts that are being used, but there might be a little bit different. So that's just another way of filtering when you have accounts set up. So again, I have it filtered, I have it grouped by account, project, and issue, so you can clearly see to which account people have logged their time. And again, the project manager can share or export this report. I'm doing these reports monthly because it's just easier to deal with that level of data. Sometimes when you try to do like a yearly report, it's a lot of data to handle, so you might have performance issues. So doing monthly report keeps it kind of neat and tidy and keeps your data under control, which you want. So, but for R&D tax credits, it's pretty common that like a finance department will only apply for these tax credits once a year. So they will take these monthly reports and then put them in one big report that they send to the government to apply for the R&D tax credits. So that is a kind of a drive-by, quick overview of the basic workflows for using timesheets for financial reasons. And now I will pass it over to Catherine, who's going to share some exciting updates on our timesheets product roadmap. Take it away, Catherine.
Thank you, Edna. So as she said, I'll be walking you through our plans for 2023. But first, we'll do a quick overview of the features we recently shipped and are already available to you. So first is AI suggestions. We've seen it in this demo, and we hope that you already are using them. They're meant to help speed up the time tracking process and save you time. Next is dark mode. We launched our first phase in issue view, and the gaps will be filled very soon. And lastly, we also focused in the first half of the year on performance improvements. So we hope that you've felt those improvements across the app. We know that this is mainly a cloud audience, but we'll also be going through our data center/server updates. So one feature that we launched there is shareable reports. It's a feature that may be familiar to our cloud users already, but our data center and server users will also have them now. So across timesheets, it's available. And it will really just enable you to share reports with any JIRA users in your organization, so you don't have to manually export or send an extra email. Now, over to the juicier part, which is what else is in store for 2023. First, we have a very popular on-prem feature that will make its way to cloud. It's the Manage Staff feature. It's one for admins, because it will easily allow them to add, edit, and move users to different workload and holiday schemes. For our developer end users, We will also soon introduce GitHub suggestions, so that will also help speed up time tracking, as it will create suggestions on timesheets based on GitHub activities. Frictionless time tracking, as we've already introduced AI suggestions, but that is just the beginning. We are exploring ways to make time tracking even more automatic, more frictionless. So if any of you here likes the idea of doing less work to log time, we'd love to talk to you and invite you to our early access program when the time comes. And up next is custom reports via structure integration. So you might have already heard that timesheets and structure are integrated. So to quickly recap, structure is a separate Tempo product. It's a project portfolio management tool that lets you flexibly view and manage issues in any hierarchy. And from this one view, let's say you can aggregate numeric fields, write formulas, do real-time calculations on your Jira data. So it essentially lets you manage all of your projects, even your whole portfolio in one view. And what we're doing here is structure is already able to pull timesheets logged in billable hours. So you could see it in any grouping, even with levels above Epic. As I've already mentioned, we are filling in the gaps in dark mode, so you can enjoy darkness throughout the app. And finally, last but not least, we are also working on improvements to our reports feature. There were already some questions about support for custom fields. That's one, it's a bullet point that packs a punch. We're improving performance. We're tackling the highly upvoted and requested features there. So do stay tuned. Over onto data center and server, we are introducing the bulk work log editing feature. It is going to be an absolute time saver and will also help reduce errors because currently, the manual workarounds are prone to those. And the last bullet point actually applies to all versions. We continuously work on performance to ensure that you're able to use current functionalities and also future functionalities with no hassle. I'd like to leave you with 3 takeaways. I breezed through our 2023 plans, but you could always view our public roadmap at tempo.io/roadmap. If I did not cover an idea or an improvement that you really want us to tackle, you can always submit and upvote ideas at ideas.tempo.io. And as I mentioned, we are thinking of a frictionless time tracking EAP, but in fact, all cloud features mentioned here, almost all of them, will go through our Tempo Lab, our early access program. So we invite you to join, and your feedback will really help shape that feature's outcome. So please, you are more than welcome. And that's it for me. Over to you, Dua.
Awesome. Thank you, Catherine. All right. So I do want to mention one more time that you are going to get a copy of these slides. And for that reason, we've included a list of resources here that can help you carry on your learning past this webinar. So you'll see some of our newer features like our AI integration and features, and you'll be able to access that blog and learn a little bit more about it. We also recommend that you bookmark our events page to stay in the know on upcoming sessions. We do have a July webinar for Planner by Tempo featuring team capacity. And then for September, we've got that Mastering Timesheets by Tempo. It will, again, take a deeper dive into accounts and billing as well. I noticed we had a lot of questions on that. Okay, and Catherine already mentioned Tempo Labs, so definitely check that out as well. Let's move on to answering some of your questions live. I did see one of the questions. I believe there was an answer for it, but let's see if we can see it live. Where do you put account based on a PO number? Anna, can you go back and show that option?
In an account itself, you do have, you can create a key number that can match what you have in your accounting system. But I'm not sure if that would be exactly what you're looking for, the product order number.
So if
that's it, okay.
So if they can customize an account key or name as a PO number, right?
Yes, sorry. Okay, sorry, I wasn't sure what you meant. So yeah, actually, when you create an account, you add your name and then it automatically creates a key for you, but you can put in whatever you want. So a lot of time people put in numbers as the key to match their accounting system. So that is a pretty common thing. So, okay. Sorry, I hope that answered your question.
Can timesheets be copied?
So if you want to copy it, just hold down the control key and drag the work log over to any time that you want. So if you go to my work, yeah, just hold down the control key, drag it, drop it, it will copy it. Okay, so that's the answer.
Can you create a notification for missing timesheets or for time entry delinquency? You do have reminders that go out. So if you can set up reminders that go out to inboxes, reminding them of logging their time, for example, every Friday. And then you also have reminders that go out before periods.
Yeah, that's true. Oops, we didn't show that, but you can create the, scheduler. Just because scheduler is kind of like an optional thing you can add on top of your basic timesheet approval. But you can set like an email reminder for everybody, and also a status reminder for just the late users, for example. So yeah, you would do that in the scheduler. So hope that's what you're looking for.
Is there a notification that goes out when a submitted timesheet was rejected?
Yes, actually you do. I'll just go to my Teams here. I'll open up this guy. So on the approvals page, so for example, I'll just go to the previous period. I'll just submit just to show you here. So I submit my timesheet and say, as your team lead, you can see it's waiting for approval. So if your team lead says, actually, I'm not going to approve it, I reject it. And then they'll have to add a comment. They reject the timesheet, and then that team member will get a notification that their timesheet has been rejected. So they need to fix the problem with their timesheet and then resubmit it.
All right, awesome. Okay, Susan, you wanted to answer, where do you define billable or non-billable tasks for time entry? Or Edna, if you want to take that one also, you can.
Yeah, and please show them. Thank you.
You mean like for the billable hours?
To where define the billable and non-billable.
Oh, the permissions, right? Okay, let me go to a project. I've got something here. So yeah, it's a project level setting. So in your project itself, you would go to that project and then permissions. And these are all like just standard Jira project permissions that are in your, permission scheme. So if you go down to set billable hours, you have to make sure that the people either in Jira user group or project role or however you have it defined are given this permission. And once you have that permission, you'll see the set billable hours field. I'll just log time here. So 8 hours. It's sometimes in the show hidden, so you may want to pull that up. But the billable hours field will then show for only those people who have the permission, that set billable hours permission. So is that cool?
Okay, awesome. What are your suggestions about how to deal with illness and other user absences? I think those are really great candidates for internal issues, usually tracking HR.
Yeah, I can actually just show you. So yeah, that's what Connor showed you earlier. Sorry, go into settings and internal issues. So here, yeah, you set up your company, what they call like basic non-work stuff. So if you're taking vacation or sick time or whatever else you have going on, sometimes just office overhead or team meetings, travel. There's a lot of sort of non-work things that can be tracked with internal issues. So that's where you would do that.
Amazing. We did have another question. How do I make sure that team member holidays are also accounted for? You can also track those using those internal issues that you create and then creating a report that filters based on that issue. So you can keep track of that as well.
Yeah. And also the holiday scheme itself is something that that defines public holidays or the prescribed holidays. So these are not vacation days. These are like sort of statutory holidays for each country. So that's where that is defined.
Okay.
But vacation and time off is defined with internal issues. Yeah.
Thank you everyone for attending the session today, and looking forward to hosting more of these sessions for you. Thank you, everyone.